1962. This is where everything truly starts to change, because up until this point, many American cars were still balancing luxury, size, comfort, with a bit of performance. But now, power starts taking center stage. The engines are getting bigger, the brands are becoming more aggressive, and the cars begin to feel more serious, faster, but also more intentional. So in this video, you're going to discover the fastest American cars of 1962. And once you see them, you'll understand exactly why, after this point, everything changed. 1962, Chevrolet Impala 409. This car no longer feels like a surprise. It feels like a warning, because in 1961, the 409 was still something new, something unexpected, a sign of what could come next. But here, it already feels different, more established, more serious, more dangerous. Imagine the context. Chevrolet seeing the impact the 409 had created, understanding that people wanted real power, not just big cars with strong engines, and instead of stepping back, they move forward. The result is this: an Impala that still carries the classic elegance of the early 1960s. Clean lines, lots of chrome, true American grand touring presence, but now paired with something much more aggressive under the hood. The 409 V8 was already producing up to 409 horsepower in its most extreme versions. Yes, 409 horsepower in 1962. And that completely changes the conversation, because now we're no longer talking about a car that was fast for its time. We're talking about something entering completely different territory. The sound, the response, the brutal torque. Everything feels more direct, more focused, much closer to what would later become the classic muscle car formula. And that's exactly what makes this car so important, because the Impala 409 wasn't just fast, it represented a transition. There's a key detail. This engine became so iconic that it moved directly into American culture itself. Songs, magazines, racing. The 409 stopped being just an engine. It became a symbol. When you look at its value today, that reflects it too. A 1962 Impala 409 can easily exceed $80,000 to $150,000, depending on configuration and originality. It's not the most refined, it's not the most discreet, but probably it's the car that best represents the exact moment when everything started to change. 1962. Pontiac Grand Prix. This car doesn't try to look extreme, but it's far more serious than it seems, because the Grand Prix operates in a very different space from the Impala. It's not chasing raw brutality. It doesn't want to look like a race car. It doesn't need exaggeration. Its focus is different. Luxury, presence, and hidden performance underneath all of that. Imagine the moment. Pontiac understanding there was an audience that wanted speed, but without sacrificing refinement. People who wanted something fast, yes, but also elegant, sophisticated, different from the more aggressive cars of the era. And this was the answer: a long, low coupe with clean lines, beautifully balanced proportions, and a much more mature presence. Everything about the design communicates confidence, not tension, and that's what makes it stand out. Because this car doesn't need to visually prove anything. It already knows what it has. Under the hood, the 421 V8 delivered around 370 horsepower, a massive number for 1962. But once again, the feeling matters more than the number itself. Because this car doesn't accelerate in a chaotic way, it accelerates with authority, and that completely changes its personality. In period testing, it could comfortably reach 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 7 seconds, placing it directly among the fastest American cars of the year. And by this point, that was no longer accidental. It was intentional. There's an important detail. The Grand Prix helped establish the idea of the American personal luxury car. Large, elegant, powerful machines with genuinely serious engines. And that concept would influence many cars afterward. When you look at its value today, that reflects it too. A 1962 Pontiac Grand Prix 421 can range between $40,000 and $90,000, depending on condition and configuration. 1962 Dodge Polara 500. This car doesn't get the attention it deserves, and that makes it even more interesting, because while other cars from the era became legends, the Polara ended up slightly hidden in the middle of it all. But once you look at what it actually offered, that doesn't make much sense. Imagine the context. Dodge pushing harder and harder into the performance conversation, realizing the market was changing, and understanding that building big, comfortable cars was no longer enough. Now, they also had to be fast, and this Polara 500 makes that very clear. The design already feels more aggressive than many earlier cars. Sharper lines, a lower stance, Less of that American land yacht feeling and much more sporting intent, especially in the better equipped versions. Everything feels tighter, more prepared, and that completely changes the car's presence. Under the hood, the 413 V8 delivered around 380 horsepower, an absurd figure for a street car in 1962. And you can feel it, because this car no longer accelerates elegantly. It accelerates violently, with immediate torque, with a sensation much closer to what would later define the muscle car era. And that's the point, because the Polara 500 feels ahead of its time. There's a key detail. Dodge was using everything it had learned from racing and performance development to push these cars further and further. And the Polara is one of the clearest examples of that transition. When you look at its value today, that reflects it too. A 1962 Dodge Polara 500 can easily exceed $50,000, with rarer versions reaching much higher numbers. And now, I want to know something. Out of the three we've seen so far, which one impresses you the most? The iconic Impala 409, the elegant Grand Prix, or this far more aggressive Polara? Let me know in the comments. 1962 Studebaker Gran Turismo Hawk. This car shouldn't even be on this list. And that's exactly why it's so interesting. Because when you think about the fastest American cars of the early 1960s, Studebaker is not the first brand that comes to mind. And yet, here it is. Imagine the context. Studebaker was already struggling, trying to stay relevant in a market dominated by much larger and stronger companies. But instead of giving up, it did something different. It created one of the most elegant and distinctive coupes of the entire era, the Gran Turismo Hawk, a car that doesn't try to look excessive, doesn't rely on massive amounts of chrome, and doesn't follow the typical Detroit proportions of the time. It feels more European, more restrained, more refined, and that immediately separates it from the rest. The lines are clean, long, beautifully balanced, with a silhouette that still looks elegant even today. It doesn't need exaggeration because its design already has its own personality. Under the hood, the supercharged 289 V8 could deliver around 289 horsepower, a strong figure, especially considering this car was more compact and lighter than many of its direct rivals. And that completely changes the experience, because here, there's no feeling of excess, there's efficiency, there's balance. And that's what makes it different. There's a key detail. The Gran Turismo Hawk's design was refined by Brooks Stevens, who transformed the model into something far more modern and visually sophisticated. And you can still see that today. When you look at its value now, that reflects it too. A 1962 Studebaker Gran Turismo Hawk can range between $30,000 and $70,000, depending on version and condition. It's not the most famous, but probably it's one of the most elegant. 1962 Mercury Monterey S55. This car doesn't seem rushed, but it has far more strength than it appears to, because the Monterey S55 exists exactly in that space where American cars were beginning to change. It still carries the size, the comfort, the elegant presence of earlier years, but now it also wants performance. And you can feel it. Imagine the context. Mercury trying to position itself as something more exclusive than Ford, but without reaching the absolute luxury of Lincoln. And to achieve that, it needed cars with more personality, more presence, more character. And the S55 was one of the clearest answers. Visually, the car keeps very clean lines, long proportions, that solid feeling typical of the early 1960s. But there's something different. The stance, the details, the way the car plants itself, everything communicates more intent, more confidence, more restrained power. Under the hood, the 406 V8 produced around 405 horsepower in its strongest versions, a gigantic figure for the era, especially in a car with a more refined focus. And that completely changes the perception, because this is no longer just a comfortable and elegant car, it's a genuinely fast one. And the most interesting part is that it barely tries to prove it. There's an important detail. The S55 package was created specifically to give Mercury a more sporting and aggressive image, something the brand desperately needed at the time. And this car accomplishes exactly that. When you look at its value today, that reflects it too. A 1962 Mercury Monterey S55 can range between $40,000 and $80,000, depending on condition and configuration.